One of, if not the most famous exclusive game on the PlayStation consoles till date, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now that it's a bit over 8 months since it was released, and with the new visual and graphics patch that even enhanced the experience a bit more, is this game still worth it in 2021? What's up everyone and welcome to a new video. My name is Omar with Real Gamer Review, and today we are reviewing Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales almost 8 months after its release. If you are watching my channel for the first time, a like and a subscribe would be hugely appreciated. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales is a 2020 action-adventure game developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony exclusively for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. The main character is based on the Marvel Comics superhero Miles Morales. It is inspired by both the character's almost decade-long comic book mythology and the 2018 animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which helped to make the character a lot more popular. The story continues from where Marvel's Spider-Man and its downloadable content, The City That Never Sleeps, left off, during which Miles Morales was bitten by a genetically enhanced spider and gained powers similar to his mentor Peter Parker. A year after the first game's conclusion, Morales has been trained by Parker, moved from Brooklyn to Harlem, and has fully integrated himself into the role of Spider-Man, though he is still learning and gaining experience and doubts whether he can live up to Parker's legacy or not. At the beginning of the game, Parker leaves New York for a trip with MJ for several weeks and trusts Morales to protect the city in his absence. And that's briefly how the story begins and takes place for most of the campaign during Parker's absence. Gameplay is presented from a third-person perspective with a primary focus on Miles' traversal and combat abilities. The game overall gameplay is similar to Marvel's Spider-Man game, which was released back in 2018 exclusively for the PlayStation as well. Miles Morales is actually considered some sort of a sequel for it, as both games are somehow connected when it comes to the story. The core gameplay of Miles Morales is the same as its 2018 predecessor. It features the same open world, a fictionalized version of modern-day Manhattan, but this time around it is covered in snow for most of the campaign, as the timeline in the game is set during the holidays. The overall controls of the character are almost identical to its 2018 predecessor as well, with the addition of new animations and abilities. You get to unlock new abilities and gadgets as you progress throughout the campaign. The most famous and obvious difference between Peter Parker and Miles Morales is the Venom Blast, which allows you, while controlling Miles, to incapacitate enemies with bioelectricity. There is also camouflage this time around, which gives Miles temporary invisibility. The game also introduced some new gadgets, including remote mines, which can be attached to enemies on some floors, a device that summons holographic fighters to help in combat, and gravity wells that trap multiple enemies and make them easier to hit. All gadgets and abilities are upgradable as you progress throughout the campaign. The campaign itself is around 8 to 9 hours, so it is not as long as its predecessor, but if you play all of the side missions and quests, it will definitely take a bit more than that. Also, since we mentioned the length of the campaign, Sony's Vice President Simon Rudder told The Telegraph that the game is an expansion and an enhancement to the previous game. So basically, it is one of the most expensive DLCs out there. However, Insomniac later called the project a standalone game. Probably that announcement was made to save the day and justify the price. Anyways, back to the gameplay. This time around we see again the same amazing combat mechanics from the previous installment, with a few more enhancements and tweaks. And again, I will mention it, this combat mechanics, which is similar to the one introduced in the Arkham games, is simply one of the best combat mechanics ever introduced in action-adventure games. Once you get the hang of it, it is super smooth and satisfying, and you just can't get enough of it. Making a comeback also from the 2018 game is the stealth combat mechanics, where you can approach some missions and take out most of its enemies stealthily, which is a bit similar to the Arkham games as well, but still a great gameplay aspect that is very enjoyable. Also, there are different suits that gets unlocked as well as you progress throughout the campaign. Each one has some unique features that can be used in stealth or combat depending on the suit itself. So for the gameplay and story, although the story is a bit short, but both are excellent. Before finishing this part, just one more thing. I usually don't go into much details regarding the game characters, but for this game I'll make an exception. Because the character they created for Miles Morales here is a pretty good one. They managed to have a very good mix between his struggles being the superhero that needs to protect the city and being the teenager that is still trying to adapt to the new place that he just moved to, along with some other small details that are revealed in the story. That particular mix that they've created made the character a lot closer to normal people, unlike other superhero games, which made it even more believable, and you even get more attached to it compared with Peter Parker from the previous installment. Coming to the graphics and visuals part, on PS5 the game actually has 3 different modes to choose from. One of them was actually introduced a while after the release. First is the Fidelity mode, which has all the bells and whistles when it comes to the graphics like ray tracing, enhanced lighting, and additional VFX. Temporal techniques provide in this mode an extra high quality picture from a 4K resolution base, but unfortunately this mode is capped to 30 frames per second. Second mode is the performance mode, which makes the game go up to 60 frames per second, but it is missing the ray tracing, enhanced lighting, and additional VFX. Also, the overall resolution is slightly lower here. Third mode is called Performance RT, or Performance Ray Tracing, and this mode was introduced actually a while after the game release through a patch update. And this mode is considered an alternative version of the performance mode, adding ray tracing by adjusting the resolution, making it around 1440p, and it also slightly adjusts the reflection quality and the pedestrian density. My go-to mode is actually the Performance RT, as it combines the best of the two worlds, the smoothness of the 60 frames per second, along with the beautiful ray tracing that this game has. But whatever mode you chose, still the game is visually spectacular in all 3 of them. As for the PS4, the game is running at 1080p on the base PS4 and 1440p on PS4 Pro with temporal upscaling up to 4K, and on both consoles it is capped to 30 frames per second. But of course on the base PS4 and PS4 Pro, the ray tracing, enhanced lighting, and additional VFX are all missing. Despite that, the game actually still looks pretty good even on the base PS4. Coming to the music part, this game, as its 2018 predecessor, it has some amazing music tracks, and they always play in the right key scenes of the game, getting you even more immersed in this excellent game, and making you feel like a true superhero. As for the audio effects, they are amazing as well. The web shooting, combat, swinging around the city, especially if you are using a headphone or sound system that takes advantage of the PS5's 3D audio. You are in for a treat. Here's a few clips from the game to check the audio yourselves.
How does Pete do this secret identity thing? Completely stresses me out. Insane. I'm on it. He's never gonna trust me on a mission like this again.
Nice work with the helicopter, kid! Real heroic stuff!
Guys, how about we call a timeout? Talk this through? Please? No? All right, then.
Wanna grab takeout? Holy crap! That's not good.
Oh, hey, sorry, happy holidays! Pete, scale of 1 to 10. How are we doing?
10 for generating spectacle, 1 for minimizing destruction. Tomorrow's Bugle headline's gonna be a doozy.
That sounds nice.
The power over life and death!
Oh,
It
baby,
excites me!
let's tonight. Gotcha. Thank you. You're welcome. Don't scare babies.
see. No. Okay, that was pretty good.
I was a bit skeptical about this game before the release, as I thought that it might be just an expansion with some visual enhancements to the 2018's Spider-Man. And although that it is somewhat right, as there is no big difference between both games, but Insomniac managed to deliver an amazing game with only a few enhancements and gameplay upgrades, along with the excellent story, characters, gameplay, and pretty good voice actors. If you haven't played this game, I totally recommend giving it a try, as I think that it is easily one of the best PlayStation exclusives out there. Alright, time to wrap this up. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, then leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.